Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very, very much for coming along. Before going to the topic of the visit that we've had here in India, the barbarism that we've seen and the new focus of that barbarism by Vladimir Putin in the Donbass region, particularly his brutal offensive against Mariupol, which is why yesterday I announced we'd be sending more artillery and doing everything possible to help the people of Ukraine defend themselves in those areas. And at the same time, the extraordinary fortitude and the success of President Zelensky and the Ukrainian people in resisting Russian forces in Kyiv means that I can announce today that we will very shortly, next week, reopen our embassy in Ukraine's capital city. I want to pay tribute to those British diplomats who remained elsewhere in the region throughout this period. The United Kingdom and our allies will not watch passively as Putin carries on this onslaught. And what I think we've seen here in New Delhi is one of the world's oldest democracies and the world's largest democracy sticking together and confronting our shared anxieties about autocracies and autocratic coercion around the world, and acting together to make our countries safer and more prosperous. Our new and expanded defence and security partnership will enable India to strengthen its own domestic defence industry, as well as protecting vital shared interests in the Indo-Pacific. Our collaboration on energy security, including our new offer on offshore wind, the new UK-India Hydrogen Science and Innovation Hub, and our joint work on solar power, will help to reduce our collective dependence on imported hydrocarbons in favour of cheaper and more sustainable homegrown renewables. And our global innovation partnership will help transfer climate and energy-smart innovations to developing countries around the wider Indo-Pacific. As we deepen the partnership between our countries, we won't just make our people safer, we'll make them more prosperous as well, creating new jobs, driving up wages and driving down prices for consumers, all of which helps with the cost of living. And our partnership with India is particularly powerful in achieving these things because India is an incredible rising power in Asia, one of the fastest growing economies in the world, already worth £2.25 trillion and set to be the world's third largest economy by 2050. India is also our biggest partner in the Indo-Pacific, which is increasingly the geopolitical centre of the world, with 2/3 of humanity and 1/3 of the global economy. And that share is rising every year. Indian investment already supports almost 500,000 British jobs. And with a population bigger than the US and the EU combined, there is so much potential for us to take our trade and investment to a whole new level. On this visit alone, we've secured new deals worth £1 billion, creating more than 11,000 jobs, and perhaps most significantly of all, we're using our Brexit freedoms to reach a bilateral free trade agreement. And today, Prime Minister Modi and I told our negotiators to get it done by Diwali in October. This could double our trade and investment by the end of the decade, driving down prices for consumers and increasing wages across the UK by as much as £3 billion. So what we're getting on with here is delivering on the priorities of the British people, but also deepening a friendship with a nation with whom we have profound ties of language, culture, and kinship, while making both our countries safer and our economies stronger. And we're going to take a few questions from the media, and we have, I'm going to go first to some UK journalists and then to some of our Indian colleagues. So first of all, Can I go to Ben Wright of the BBC?
Thank you, Prime Minister. In your discussions about Ukraine, did you ask Prime Minister Modi to use his influence in Moscow to put pressure on Russia? And did you get any sense that he would do that? And on trade, you said there'll be a free trade agreement with India by Diwali. But considering the number of party investigations going on back home, are you absolutely sure you'll still be Prime Minister then?
Okay, the second answer is yes. But on the on your point about Ukraine and the Indian perspective, look, I mean, I think you have to recognise that the Indians have actually, and Narendra Modi in particular, have come out and been very strong in their language about what's happened in Bucha, and talking to Narendra, to Prime Minister Modi today, it's clear that he has already intervened several times, and I'm sure this is no secret from our Indian friends. He's intervened several times with Vladimir Putin, really to ask him what on earth he thinks he's doing, and where he thinks this is going. And what the Indians want is peace, and they want the Russians out. And I totally agree with that. And I think that there's a difference in the balance clearly, because India has a historic relationship with Russia, which everybody understands and respects. That goes back decades. But what was so interesting about the last couple of days has been the way in which Britain and India are being really encouraged, obliged by the pressure of events today. As I say, autocratic coercion, whether it's in Russia or China or wherever, to do more together. And that is, I think, offering up a huge joint agenda. And there are three big areas where you're seeing work being done now. They're on the green growth side, big agenda for us, clean power, and a lot of work is being done on that. They're on the security and defence side, and a huge amount there, which I could go into, and then of course on the trade agreement. And there, I think, all trade agreements are tricky, Ben, to get to your point about trade, but and there will be tough asks of both sides, but I'm sure we can do it. And what you got today was a massive push from both governments to get it done, and so I'm very encouraged. Anushka Astana, ITV.
Thank you, Prime Minister. You say that Prime Minister Modi has asked Vladimir Putin what on earth he's doing, but we know that India has abstained on key motions at the UN over this. Its Foreign Secretary has just come out and said you didn't put any pressure on India to change its position. Why isn't that? What did the Prime Minister say that convinced you more pressure was not necessary? Just one more question. You're facing 3 investigations back home, and it's led to a catastrophic loss in trust. Polling this week from YouGov says that 74% of the British public think you're untrustworthy. Only 12% think you're trustworthy. Some say you're like a cat with 9 lives. How many have you got left?
Anushka, on your second question, we had talking about cats. We had a pretty good kick of the cat yesterday. Not that I'm in favour of kicking cats for the avoidance of doubt, but we did all that with great respect. And what we're talking about today, as I said in my answer to Ben, is the ways in which the situation, not just in Ukraine, but the situation around the world, is obliging the UK and India to do more together. And the position on the position on Russia that the Indians have historically is well known. They are not going to change that. Of course, that's true. But they are, they can see what is going on, and there is an increasing appetite to do more with the UK. And if you look at what, just in the security and defence side of it, on maritime propulsion, electric maritime propulsion of ships, on new collaboration on new aero engines, on undersea capabilities, on cyber, helicopters, space, a huge new joint agenda, and that is being driven by contemporary events. And I think it's a positive thing. It's a great opportunity, and it's fully. And what it does is it helps to drive the Make in India agenda of Prime Minister Modi, but also helps to drive the idea of co-production and doing things together, and that's where I think the opportunity is. Hugo Guy, the Eye.
Thank you, Prime Minister. You've made it clear you don't want to talk about questions over your future and over your conduct, but it's also clear that voters are interested in this. Polls have repeatedly showed that voters are deeply concerned about Downing Street parties and about your position. What's your message to the British public? Are they wrong to care about these things? And can I ask you, you've talked about your friendship with Narendra Modi and the close relationship that you've struck. During your conversations, did you bring up the concerns from human rights groups that he's presided over a culture of growing Hindu nationalism and democratic backsliding in India?
So we always have, so on your first point, Hugo, look, I think that what people want in our country is for the government to get on and focus on the issues on which we were elected. And that's what we're going to do. And I think they'll be particularly interested in jobs growth in the UK, a memorandum of understanding, for instance, today on wind power, gigantic ambitions for more wind energy, both of us, from offshore wind, offshore, not just offshore, but floating platforms we want to work on together to produce substantial quantities of new wind power, which will enable us to produce more energy for our people together in a very short time. That strikes me as being a reasonable thing for the government of the UK to focus on. That is what we are focused on, with greatest respect to the evidence that you may cite. And secondly, on our relations with India and how we deal with questions about human rights or democratic values, of course we have these conversations, but the advantage of our friendship is we can have them, and we can have them in a friendly and private way. And I just want to say it is very important to realise that India has constitutional protections for communities. They're part of its constitution. India is a very, very different country from autocracies around the world. It is a great, great democracy, and that's why. And it is a stunning, shining fact. 1.35 billion people who live under a democracy, and that's something we should celebrate. And it offers us an opportunity for closer cooperation and partnership. That doesn't mean I'm not going to raise tough consular questions as I have today, and other difficult questions. Of course we do that, but we do that as friends. Okay, Mesa Hall, The Express.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. Could I ask you to say a bit more about your discussions on a free trade deal and what that means in terms of widening visa access to the UK from India? Does that mean a relaxation of your points-based immigration policy? And can you explain, or how would you explain to Brexit voters that you've identified gaps in the labour market, but in this instance you're looking to fill them through immigration rather than encouraging firms to raise skills and raise wages?
Yeah, thanks very much, Mesa. I think the first challenge we have, of course, is to raise skills and raise expectations in our own country, get people into the jobs that we have. We've currently got about 500,000 jobs that aren't filled, possibly, well, actually 1.25 million vacancies. We have 1.8 million people unemployed. What I want to see is a lot of those people who are currently on the unemployment register off benefits and into work. And that's why we set out the Way to Work challenge earlier this year to get 500,000 off benefits and into work. That's making progress. I want to see people get the skills that they need to do the jobs that the UK has begging to be done, and there are many of them in lots of sectors. But we have some particular shortages, and if you look, for instance, at IT. You look at computer programming, there are areas where there's no question that Indian skills can make a difference. So you're right, Mesa, in your priorities. I'm going to prioritise skilling up the British people to do those jobs, but I'm not going to be dogmatic in refusing to allow people with skill and talent to aspire to come to the UK. And our country has done brilliantly well from having people of ambition and skill and genius coming to the UK. And all I would say is that we need to control it. And that's what we're doing. So it in no way changes, just to get to your point about the points-based system, in no way changes the advantages of the points-based system. On the contrary, the points-based system now gives us the ability to decide which sectors need which types of workers, and how we can deal with immediate shortages, and that's what we're going to do. Thank you. Did you have another question? That was it. Thanks. Heather Stewart, The Guardian.
Hello, Prime Minister. Hello. A new report from the Royal United Services Institute today says Russia is laundering components for weapons from Western countries, including the UK, through India. You've announced an open export licence for defence on this visit. How will you ensure nothing that we export to India ends up in Vladimir Putin's hands? And second one, if I may, are you going to pass legislation allowing the government to suspend aspects of the Northern Ireland Protocol?
Thanks very much, Heather. So, look, one of the things that has been really effective in the sanctions that we've seen so far is the ban on tech transfer to Russia, and that really makes a difference. And it's starting to mean that they can't service their planes. There are real problems starting to arise. We've got to ensure we keep that ban tight. We'll be making sure that we don't allow any loopholes of any kind. So we will take steps to make sure that stuff does not go through other routes to Russia. On your point about the Northern Ireland Protocol, look, this is something that has been a consistent issue for the UK government, and I think it's very simple. It's about the balance of the Good Friday Agreement, and because of what is happening, I think that it'd be fair to say that the protocol really does not command the confidence of a large component of the population in Northern Ireland. We have to address that. We have to fix that. There are very substantial diversions of trade, and it's going on, and it's getting more acute. We have to fix that. We think we can do it with some very simple and reasonable steps, and we've talked repeatedly to our friends and partners in the EU. We'll continue to talk to them. But as I've said many times now, we don't rule out taking further steps if that's necessary, and that's the position. But I've said that many times. Of course. Steve, that goes without saying. Steve Swinford, The Times.
Prime Minister, Western intelligence officials briefed us yesterday that the war in Ukraine could continue until the end of next year, and they said bluntly that Russia could win. That is a scenario that's possible. Do you accept that assessment, particularly that time frame? And secondly, you're reopening our embassy in Kiev. Can we expect regular visits by you and other ministers in coming months?
So, Steve, yes. I mean, look, I think the sad thing is that that is a realistic possibility. Yeah, of course. Putin has a huge army. He has a very difficult political position because he's made a catastrophic blunder. He has the only option he now has really is to continue to try to use his appalling grinding approach, led by artillery, trying to grind the Ukrainians down. And he's very close to securing a land bridge in Mariupol now. the situation is, I'm afraid, unpredictable at this stage. We've just got to be realistic about that. But what we've also seen is the incredible heroism of the Ukrainians and their willingness to fight. And I tell you something, I think that no matter what military superiority Vladimir Putin may be able to bring to bear in the next few months, and I agree, it could be a long period, he will not be able to conquer the spirit of the Ukrainian people. That is just an observable fact. On the contrary, what he is doing every day is strengthening and reinforcing that will to resist in the people of Ukraine. And so I think what we in the supporters of the Ukrainian people need to think about is what further steps we can do to support them militarily. And you know about what we're doing with the artillery that we're sending, the shells that we're sending, both NATO standard and Warsaw Pact, a former Warsaw Pact standard. You know about the armoured cars, 150 armoured cars. I think perhaps what I haven't said in public before is that we're also looking more at what we can do to backfill in countries such as Poland, who may want to send heavier weaponry to defend help defend the Ukrainians. So we're looking at sending tanks to Poland to help them as they send some of their T-72s to Ukraine, and other steps like that. And you know, I think about the anti-ship defences and so on. So we've got to look at what more we can do militarily. We've got to keep intensifying the economic sanctions, and that's what we're doing. We want to make sure that there is wave after wave of intensifying pressure on Putin. And we've also got to set out a vision for the future of Ukraine in the security architecture of Europe. And where does Ukraine fit in now? Because that, I think, is a question that everybody will need to answer. And the Ukrainians will need to be able to answer that question if and when there is ever a realistic negotiation, which doesn't seem likely at the present time. But eventually, what the Ukrainians want, and I think are now going to get, is a collection of security guarantees from like-minded countries, security commitments about what we can do to back them up with weaponry, with training, and with intelligence sharing. Not like an Article 5 guarantee, won't be exactly the same thing, but what it will be I hope, it will enable the Ukrainians to offer deterrence by denial, and to make sure that their territory is so fortified as to be impregnable in the future to further attack from Russia. That's what we need to do. And on your question about getting ministers to Kyiv, I'm all in favour of that. But you know, we have no immediate announcements. I think it's a good thing if people do go there to show their support, their solidarity with the Ukrainian government and with Volodymyr Zelensky. Thanks. I think that was both things. Can I go to Kamaljit Sandhu from India Today?
So my question is,
sorry.
India has several concerns as far as Nirav Modi and Vijay Mallya are concerned. How is UK taking those up? Also, there is also an issue about Khalistani extremists. There has been a concern from the Indian side for quite some time. What actions have been taken? Yeah,
thank you very much, Kamaljit. So it won't surprise you to learn that both these things were raised with us. And we have a very strong view in the UK that we don't tolerate extremist groups setting up in the UK with a view to causing threatening other countries, threatening India. But what we've done in particular as a result of this visit is set up an anti-extremist task force to see what more we can do to help India in that particular respect. And on the two individuals that you mentioned for the extradition cases, I think there are legal technicalities that have made it very, very difficult. But what I can tell you is that the the UK government has ordered their extradition, and that we have said that from our point of view we want them to be taken back to India for trial. And perhaps I should just say, perhaps going back to Mesa's point, we welcome people who have talent and brilliance coming from India to the UK. We don't welcome. I want to make it absolutely clear now. We don't welcome people who want to use our legal system to evade the law here in India. So let me be absolutely clear about that. Let's go to Rizal Hassan Laskar from his Hindustan Times.
Mr. Prime Minister, you spoke you spoke both yesterday and today about the ambitions for having the free trade agreement by October.
Yes.
What, if any, are the sticking points or the tough asks that are, that you need to surmount before October? And secondly, if I may, the expanded defense partnership, India and the UK haven't had a major defense deal since 2003 when the deal for the Hawk aircraft was signed. And now India has moved towards manufacturing most of the defense equipment within the country. How are you going to work with India on this aspect? Is it going to be technology transfers or boosting Indian production? Thank you.
Thanks very much, Rizal. So look, there are several things there. First of all, the free trade deal. I think there are going to be some difficult issues. Tariffs. Tariffs on whiskey is a tough one. It would be a great thing, I think, if we could fix that. But there are all sorts of things that need to be addressed. I think, but there are big opportunities, and we can get it done. And the firm message has gone out from our friends to make progress. And so I'm optimistic. And on your point about defence and how that's going to work, look, you're entirely right. What we've agreed is that there has to be a focus on a company-to-company basis, and so when we look at some of these projects that I've described, whether it's electric propulsion for ships or new aero engines for fighters or undersea technology or whatever it happens to be, what we're going to do is make sure that we bring our companies together. And there are some great companies in India, but that we have an approach of co-production, joint development, and doing it that way. So it satisfies the the Make in India objective, but also works in terms of technology transfer. And what we agreed at this meeting is that our national security advisors, our defence ministers, our foreign ministers will now get together in a rolling programme so that we make progress on this within a year. But there is a big agenda of work already underway. So that's it, folks. I think I think I have now addressed my budget of questions. I just want to remind you, in case you'd forgotten, the key statistics and takeouts from this wonderful mission and visit to India. £1 billion of investment in the UK, 11,000 jobs. I hope that hasn't escaped you. How many times have I said that? An MOU on wind, green hydrogen, working together on solar energy, cooperation on small modular reactors, the whole security and defence partnership that we've just discussed, new partnerships with universities and new partnerships on medicine, including new work on malaria vaccines to follow up on the groundbreaking work that the UK and India did, for instance, over the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, of which I am personally the beneficiary. I don't know how many others are in this room. Thank you all very much. See you soon. Thank you.